whatever strategy you do, you've got to have a way to get people onto the pathway so that you can get them to their end in mind. Now, that's your job description, but let me tell you what's really the mind-blowing part. When you have your structure built, literally anybody can lead a small group if they have one quick qualification. And you got to ask, what's the highest qualification anybody in leadership has? And you may get people to pull and they may say different things. They may say passion is the most highest qualification they need. Being a follower of Christ, kind of good. Having teachability, character, integrity, those things, all good things. But what I would challenge you is that when you have your small group ministry structure built and you have your leader training and your video curriculum pathway, the tools that are designed, you got people who can coach and understand that they've got to go after soft data before they go after hard data. Literally anybody that has the qualification, which is followers. If anybody, the highest qualification for our leaders is, do you have followers? And the modern term for followers is friends. So we would even distill it down to, if you have 2 friends, you can lead a group. People always call me at Saddleback and say, what's your qualifications for leadership? I say, if you have 2 friends, you can lead a group. And they say, what if, let's take it to the worst common denominator, what if somebody who doesn't know Jesus says they want to lead a group with their 2 friends? Here are 2 myths that we don't believe. One is, if they're coming to your church and they're not a follower of Christ, we don't believe that they're Al-Qaeda or they're trying to destroy your church. The second myth we don't believe is that they're going to destroy the moral integrity of the group. Because if they're not a follower of Christ, their friends probably aren't followers of Christ. Now, before you throw me off and before you've already turned this off, hopefully you haven't, you'll hear me out here. When I have senior pastors say that is wrong or it can't work, I always ask them this question. If 2 or 3 non-believers came to your weekend service and they attended your weekend service and they went out to lunch and they talked about your message, would that be okay? 100 out of 100 pastors always tell me that would be awesome. What I described with you with 2 friends and using our video curriculum is the exact same thing, only I know more information on them. Because when they come out and get the curriculum, they're giving me their name and their address and their contact. So our community leaders, their first line of diagnostics is, do they need Jesus or do they need training? Or do they need both? Because something else that will put you at ease is that when these groups start with non-believers or people we have questions about, they're not on our internet. Nobody can find them. Only they can find them. And one of the things that I've found is that this leads to more people being involved in small group ministry than the average attenders in your church, because we're reaching out into the community. Now, how did we find this out? Did we get together and did we plan this whole structure out and all that? Now, at Saddleback, I've been doing this here at this church for over a couple of decades, and it's always evolving. But our 2 friends thing, this is how we discovered it. We were doing a service and Rick wanted to show baptisms. And he was going to teach on baptisms, and then we were going to model a couple of them so people wouldn't be so scared about it. And he asked me to get a couple people ready for the service, and I did. And we cut out to me at the baptismal pool, and I baptized this one guy, and it was good and everything, and we did all that. And because of time, we had to throw it back to the service, and we had teed up 2 guys, and the second guy was there, and he had a crowd of people with him. And so I just said, hey, we just baptized this guy, but let's go ahead and baptize you. No need for you to wait for the end of the service, and you got all your friends here. And so I just said, how long have you been at Saddleback? And he goes, I've been going here about 4 weeks. And I go, this would have been a better guy than the last guy. And And I said, when did you accept Christ? And he goes, just about 2 weeks ago. And I'm just thinking, I go, oh man, my competitive side is like going, oh, this would have been such a better person for the congregation to see. And then I said, well, who's here watching the baptism with you? And he goes, well, my mom and dad are here, and my small group is here, and they're all cheering. And I'm like going, oh, Lord, I wish this would have been the guy. I almost wanted to say, hey, can you come back next service? But I was too far down the road. And I said, hey, one of the spiritual things is that, you got your group here and everything, and this is a very spiritual moment. And so I want to invite your group leader down in the water with us because, this is a big spiritual step, and this group has played a big part in you coming to the Lord. And I go, who's your leader up there? And I looked up at the crowd, and he looked at me, he goes, I'm the leader. And I looked at him and I said, how long have you been at Saddleback? And he goes, 4 weeks. And I go, when did you accept Christ? And he goes, 2 weeks ago. And I go, how did that look like? How did that happen? Was it here at the weekend service? And he goes, no. He goes, we were in our group and Rick prayed the prayer. And he said, out of the prayer, if you just accepted Christ in your heart, tell your small group. And I did. And they all screamed, yeah. And he goes, and get baptized. And he goes, here I am. And I go, here you are. And it led to a huge discussion of saying, was this okay? And what happened is he was so intrigued with the content that he invited his friends to the group. And then he ended up getting saved in the group. I'm telling you right now, you have more leaders in your church than you're willing to give credit for. And if you have 2 friends, you have the primary gift that a leader needs, and that is followers. The problem is we're not helping them out. And if you have a video curriculum strategy, if you have the small group structure set up, you are more than fine to turn loose and get people to lead a group and then grow them up and help them find out the beauty about being a follower of Jesus Christ.